what is a smart contract? Okay, actually you can read by yourself. Custom logic and code deployed within a blockchain environment. There is a define the rule interaction between the account. Again, define the rule. That is a rule that you wanted to be defined. Okay, you define the rule and then how the rule interact between the account. So that's why you need to know how to account and transfer and handle your digital asset. Okay, your money and so on. Basically, it's a small program. That's why I said it's a small program with the function that allow you to verify the information, to verify the fact and data, and also the balance of the money inside your account. So the smart contract allow a complexity user-defined operations. So what is a contract? So transfer value, all this I don't know. Remember, our smart contract is defined about the business logic layer, actual logic code inside a high-level program. Now, compared to the transaction, I said you need to understand the transaction in our Ethereum. So in a blockchain, before blockchain is a Bitcoin. So when the Bitcoin, the word transaction is always referred to money, sending the coin from one account to another one account. The transaction is only sending the value, sending the Bitcoin value for a Bitcoin, okay, under the Bitcoin transaction. But for us, it's no. For us, under Ethereum, we are no. Okay, the transaction can be referred to your validation. Okay, the transaction not necessarily must be referred to money. They can be referred to the validation. Okay, so for example, over here, that is the starting of the transaction. So you have a transaction to validate whether that is a voter or not, whether the person can do voting or not. Okay, so that is considered a transaction. If you have a function to validate this person's account, whether it's valid to do voting or not, then considered as a transaction. Okay, so or the person is a voter, is a valid voter, and he do voting. He are not going to transfer money. He just go and vote. Let's say I want to vote. Let's say voting for, let's say, a parliament. Now we have this one election, something like that, right? In certain stage they have an election. So that's why they can do voting. They say, okay, I like this candidate, so I vote this candidate. So from this, when you're using that kind of transaction, that is, when you vote the candidate, that is a transaction. Your transaction is referred to the vote, but it's not money. Okay? But transaction need to pay money already lah. You need to pay the gas. So same thing. Now next is when somebody already done the election and so on, you already have voting. Okay, you need to count. So which candidate are having a higher vote? You do counting, number of count, you count for that. So in this case, when you counting the vote, that is a transaction. So for the back end, first thing, not only transfer money as a transaction. I know just now you transfer money, that is a transaction. But you do other transaction, you do other things. How to determine that is a transaction? You change the state. Am I right? Last week, I told you how to refer to the transaction. You have a state variable, you modify the data inside the state, you modify the data inside the state, or you assign value inside the state, you consider as a transaction. Gas fee will be charged. Okay? So So smart contract allow implementations of rule policy and with the help of blockchain support method. Okay, for this and so on. Now, come to the remix. Okay, this one I think most of you already understand where is a file explorer, where is a blockchain simulator, and then a compile, deploy contract, and then how you look for the transaction record, and then here is the user can interact from a transaction, can run the transaction. So you have a simple UI design. So now we are moving on. I don't go in detail. You already know where is the account, where to deploy, how to compile, which icon is used to do compile icon, deploy and run the transaction icon, and here is the UI design. Okay, the deploy contract, you have a contract address. This thing I have been explained to you. So now, writing your smart contract, you need to define the structure. We come in already, write a program. So first thing, smart contract can store the variable. Okay, when you store the data inside the variable, there can be a store. The variable can be declared as state variable. We still got a local variable also. So now we need to have a prompt directive. So prompt directive is define your compiler version. So the lower version is 0.4.0. Don't use 0.4.0 because which is already depreciated, and that's the compiler is the old compiler. It means that you're writing the old code for your backend. Okay? So you must be know your latest code and then the latest standard of writing your backend code. I think it's 0.8 and onwards. So then we have a contract name. Then we can go and define our data or our state variable over there. And then we have a different function that you want to write. Then you have the identifier. So the question identifier, same things happen to your the rest of the programming code like that. You must give a meaningful identifier name for your variable or your function name. Must be identifier, must be camel, case convention, and make sure you write your code which you are follow design code and test it. So this is all about that. Now we writing this program and this question sent back. Okay, create a smart contract called greater, just like first day you learn about hello world or something like that. So over here we need to write our program called greater.so. Inside the greater.so you have a solidity, okay, version which you are using 0.5.0. You using the old version, later on we change to the new version, then you can see what are the error message and the standard used in a backend code. So then you have the string state variable. So I hope and at this moment you understand why we call declare a string state variable. So in the JavaScript or Java we have var variable, let's say a number, okay, like this, or equal to 100, like this way. From Java or JavaScript, you no need to clearly indicate the data type because JavaScript is a dynamic one. Okay, he based on your value that you assign inside a variable, then he go and determine type of the variable, type of data type need to be used to store your data. That is a JavaScript or Java. Okay, get me now? So, but from here, solidity is a fixed, static. You must be clearly define the data type, just like the C language must be clearly define data type. From here, C language got this one, float and double. Am I right? In solidity, we don't put this. Okay? Even though NHL, this is a money wall, got 0.0 something wall. They don't have that. Okay? So later we go for more detail. That is a data type. So we have the set and why I need this one. So now in your assignment, you need to create a diagram to show your program. So over here, you look like this is a class diagram. This is a class diagram, or we call it as a contract diagram. Contract diagram. So later on, I will show you the differences between class diagram or contract diagram. writing over here, this is a class diagram. Okay? Your assignment need to draw one to show your logic, to show your functions over there. So now, from here, so that's why I said change exercise number 2 and so on. So how to write this one? So now we coming to our remix. This one all can close already. Later on, I want you to submit your exercise back to our Google Classroom one. www.remix.ethereum.org. Tak betul kan? Connect ah. remix.ethereum.org. Okay? Okay? So now I'm coming back to, I change my color, the interface color first. So I change to the light. Hopefully you can see that. So whatever. Okay? So I change the color, don't worry about that. So I'm coming back to this. Okay? Over this side. So what I need to do here is, I need to create my contract, and you need to put it into the purple folder. So you put at the contract folder over here, you go and add your file. Okay, you can add a new file. Okay, new file like this way. So over here I said this is a creator.store like this way. So you press enter. Okay, so when you press enter over here, you will have this part. Okay, don't worry about the red color and so on and so forth first. So first of all, we need to define our prima directive. Before we define our prima directive, right, we wanted to have this one called this particular code over here. We need to define this SPDX license identifier MIT. Okay, this is talking about your license identifier must be given at the first place as a command. So that's why over here you have this one SPD. Okay, SPD. Okay. SPDX dot license. Okay. For example, over here, that each out I do not give this. Why I say that if you do not give this? Because this particular standard is defined under the versions of 0.6.8. This code need to be given when you writing a Solidity program, your smart contract using up to 0.6.8 onward. But now because I'm writing based on the questions over here, I'm writing my program under 0.5.0, this version. Okay, so that's why over this side I may not need to have. Okay, I may not need to have for that. I let you see the differences. So that's why I put in the prima. Okay, solidity version greater than 0.5.0. They help us to put in that. So next things you see they help me to auto compile 0.8. So You can see when you define 0 point, okay? I already give, or if I don't give up, if I go to make it as deleted also can one. Okay? Up to you. If I deleted this whole thing, there is no error one. Okay? There's no error. So you can see when I go and define my solidity version, my compiler version, your compiler under this over here, come to the compiler here, he will go and choose for your compiler versions over this side. There are so many. There are so many compiler, minor editing, minor improvement of the compiler of your solidity program code that come out. So the latest one is this one, 0.8.18. Okay? So from that, using the latest local version is this one. Okay? So if you want, but now I'm using the old version, show you how it look like. Okay? So that's why he will automatically define. Okay? Based on that. So next thing we need to give a contract name. Okay? You put contract, so you need to define it as a public. Okay? Okay, so remember you need to give name, the contract for this name, even though your source file called creator.source, okay, that is a file name. Contract name and file name usually we are given the same one, okay, instead of change. Okay, so that's why we are given for that. So after done this, we are going to give can I?
Miss, I changed the version 5 of the
This one version 5. 0.5.0. Greater than?
0.8 is okay.
Fine, okay. So I just wanted to demo for you the error message from a different version. What I mean here is because of why is fine, because of this one, you should put it, because 0.5 you no need to have this. So next one we are moving on. Okay, so we need to define the variable based on the question here. You need to define, don't worry about the question later on we see the error message. So next thing that under this contract here, we need to create a state variable. So previously I said your state variable must be under your contract. After your contract name you give a state variable. So this is a string. You can define the variable length, how many and so on. We don't go and do so. And here he said that your name, okay? Your state variable called your name, for example. So I only have this one. Okay? After done this, what is I'm going to move for the next is, so I have this constructor. So create a constructor for this greater smart contract to set a default value of your name called hello world 123. Constructor is whatever you wanted to be executed when come to deploy. So you put it under the constructor. So you have a constructor. Okay, sorry, constructor. Tab. This one, sorry, this public. Here no public. Under the constructor have public. Okay? From here. Okay? So now he said that your this particular word, your name, you have the word, hello world. 1, 2, 3. Semicolon. Okay? So, next thing, I'm going to moving on. After this is a constructor. As I said, constructor is when you deploy your contract, what are the things that you want the program, the thing that need to be set at the initial stage. So next thing we come to the function. So based on the contract over here, he wants you to have a set this function. So you can ask the user to set the name. You have a set function. Now key in set. So over here you have an input parameter, the bracket. As you know that I wanted to expect to have a data coming in is a string data. So the data is, for example, is name. Okay, name. So this one I made it as public because you want everyone can be accessed later on. This thing I will going to teach you. Okay, all this. So now, assuming you have a data from the front end passing in to here, because you wanted to override the data that has been set under the default, that is your name. So in this case, you know that you already changed the state. From here, you change the state. You initial value to your state variable, you also change the state. Just like you changing the state under the deployment, you call for contract. This one is reading from the user, front end user passing the data for the name and store back to your state variable in your back end. Okay? Next one, coming to the next, we will have another one called you need to go and get function, getting function. So getting function here are showing you inside the diagram. You must be know how to look at the diagram, read the diagram, and also read the sentences. Now I'm training you how to read this diagram to write your program. Okay? So now we're going to write a getting. So that's why I also have another one function there. Function. So called get. Okay? So that because it's getting is referred to return data and based on the diagram you are go and return. So that's why I have a public. Okay? Then I have a word return. Remember this return got S. Got the S, okay? S, return. Then here you need to put in your the data type, that the data that you return back to the front end. What is the data type? So I will have a string there. Okay? So then I open the bracket. What you wanted to return? You return back your name. Your name. So that here is no S. Return with no S. Like this way. Okay? So simple program. Now we're moving on. Moving on now. So you already have this, and this one will auto help you to save one. Okay? So now from here, your source is this part. Okay? Your contract is here. Okay? So later on, I will tell you what is artifact and so on. But under the contract here, your file is here, greater. So then we come to the compiler. I go and compile. Okay? Compile your greater.source. Okay? So now, over here, telling you that what is the problem of my contract? Para expectation bracket but got comma. Sorry, here no bracket one. Make sure cannot remember that. Okay. Hold on. There are no bracket one, so I put bracket okay. 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 So the dot saw you can see here. The bracket, no bracket one, So you need to compile it again. So no problem. Okay, now this one, why there is a problem over there? Okay, you can see I said, Michelle, I compile it already. Okay, compile it already. Then here is a contract. It's an initial why your program could got so many error. I purposely wanted to show you an error. I purposely wanted to show you an error because you need to define the data location must be defined. So as I said, the data stored inside the memory, there is a location. If let's say I change to 4, you don't need to change. I change only. You don't need to change. Okay. Now I compile with 0.48. I compile of that. They're totally not allowed. Hold on. Your name, your uppercase. Okay. Hold on. Name. Uppercase. Okay. Now, what I have been showing you initially, I can't follow. Okay. Now, from this one, first of all, I changed the more lower versions of compiler because of I wanted to tell you under the lowest of the compiler, we don't need to go and define the locations of the location of this variable to be correct. Locations of this variable to be correct. This is what I mentioned. Okay, but now I change to 0.8. They have a more different error already. Now I change back. I go back to the 0.8 over here. Now he are pointing the error to this one. Okay, he said that here got error. I compile and here got an error. So the error pointing at different location. And now he said that your type error is data location must be memory for the parameter in the function, but none was given. Okay, this is your variable. This variable called string name is a temporary variable to store the data that passing from the front end to the back end, the name. So you need to tell the node, this name, you keep it inside your memory. You no need to keep inside your storage. So that's why usually we have the storage and memory, this location need to be defined. And you say, Michelle, why this one no need? Under this part. This one, state variable. Because state variable default, the location, data location is a storage already. It's part under storage. You no need to put storage, then know that the data location for state variable must be permanently stored inside the node storage. Get what I mean now? Cannot store inside the memory. Store inside the memory, it means that the data will gone if the node is down. Get what I mean now? So they want to be permanently recorded down inside. So the price storing in the memory, use the memory space for the node and use the storage space for the node. The price will be different. They need that to calculate your gas. Understand? So that's why over here we need to define the memory, string memory. Okay? Same thing over here. You are return data. The data cannot be directly returned back to the front end. You need temporary storage from the memory to keep the return data. Okay? You can see after you given this value, only then you will have this initial guess, this thing showing to you that. Okay? But however, you still saw an error. I said, don't worry about that because you need to familiar with the error. Only then you know how to be compiled. So now after done this already, you come to the next one is this. That is under the greeting that. Warning. Function state mutability can be restricted to view only. You need to familiar with all this warning message, and so on. Don't be scared for this warning message, okay? Because you need to debug for it. So from here, you need to restrict the entire function. This function is only return data. You cannot go and change the state variable. That's why this function you do not change any state variable. So that's why this function is a mutability state. And you need to put the view called public view only can view purpose. Only then you can solve this problem and you do not have any compiler error. So once you don't have any compiler error, you have a green tick over there. Okay? So that's why later on, I will go later classes, I will go and telling you, okay? I will go and telling you what is the view, what is the public, and so on. So this one we cannot make it as view because you are changing the state variable. You update the state of this state variable. This one you only read. That's why it's view only. You restrict. You tell this program only can restrict. Only can be viewed. Okay? So now you've done this one. We go and deploy it. Deploy it. Then you can see the contract over here. Okay? So if you go and get function, you will see hello world 1, 2, 3. And your transaction is at the bottom. I know the string is very small. Okay? So then if you go and set the string to become, okay? So I will change to the string become child TV, for example, I set. So you can see the transaction has been awarded. And you can see, just now my money is deducted one. I don't focus on EOA account already, you understand? I'm sure I got money there. So I just wanted to see the logic. So and then I can able to get the child TV over there. So I change the name and get function and so on. So now, come back. We finished the exercise 1, but we are going to use the old method. So now, the new method is, we change the error. So we go and update my program code here. Later on, you give me the latest version one. This is the old version. Okay? Old version. Now, from 0.5.0, I change to 0.8. Okay? Immediately you change to the 0.8, you compile it, and they already give, the first line already give you the error. Now, why I wanted to show you such an error? Why I wanted to show you such an error? Because of smart contract is open source. You can get a lot of program from GitHub from where and somewhere. They may be uploaded few years back and so forth. If you wanted to use their open source code, you need to know how to change your source code to fix back to your current version of the program standard. Understand what I'm saying? So that's why the first thing is at the top here, you need to go and give, just now I mentioned this particular standard, this standard, okay? So you need to go and write this code for this one, okay? So you need to have an SPD, it's a command, license, you need to define the license, SPDX dash license, okay? Dash identifier, okay, column, then space MIT, okay, this one. Only then you have no error from this, okay. So, MD SPDS license dot identifier, correct. Okay, I refresh it again. So sorry, over here I got auto compile. I better click on auto compile. I lazy to every time go and click here. I go have an auto compile. Whatever I change my code, you help me to compile for that. Okay, auto compile. Just now over here got one auto compile. So I changed already. Definitely they already updated the 0.8 point something already. And then you find over this side. Here. Constructor cannot have public. Okay? That's all. You already define for that. Okay? Okay? Contractor cannot have public. Because they know that contractor is only can call one time while you deploy. That's why contractor cannot make it as public. That is a standard. Okay? So I stop here. This file said how can I copy? So you come to your contract, right click, you have this one download. When you download it, he will give you a under your download folder, you should have a creator.so, this one. Okay? So that's why you don't need to retype. You wanted to open it, you open it by using Notepad. Again, you open it by using Notepad. Okay? This is a part. Or you can open it by using Visual Studio Code also can. Okay? Yeah, I mean, you open with the Notepad also can, Visual Studio Code also can. They can recognize. Okay? You can get back your code from that. Okay? So this exercise I don't ask you to submit. I will ask you to submit later on one. So let me take your attendance first. I'm so sorry, just now I forgot to take your attendance while I log into the College intranet. You can pack already, you can go already. Let me take your attendance, then you can go already. My dear, I think during weekend, I go through, I went in, I logged into a Facebook, I saw a news, somebody posted, said that the block B got people steal the laptop, something like that. So you be careful your belonging. Okay? I do not know what happened and so on. So anyhow, just to ensure that.
We need to submit.
No need submit, this one no need to submit, okay? No need, sorry, this week, this exercise no need to submit. You can go back, I will go and ask you to try on other exercise also, okay? Let me, because this week got holiday, so later on, because at the end of the class already, I have next door, I have another class in next door. So, Chi, are you here or not?